Ahoy there crew, this is your captain speaking, and it's been 3 years since I designed these characters. So I thought it was about time I went back and fixed them. Each of them can actually be traced back to an actual mushroom, so without further ado, let's set sail. The first mushroom we'll be taking a look at is my version of the Mycena subcyanocephala. It's a tiny mushroom that measures at about 1 millimeter. The cap is a deep blue color, while the stem is a cool white. It also appears to be quite fluffy and covered in tiny dewdrops. It's found in the more tropical parts of Taiwan, where it's known to grow on wood. Now, these old artworks are more once-off illustrations than technical character designs, so I'll be changing a lot here. For the original character, I gave her a big floppy hat and a dress, both with a matching gradient. This gradient matches the darker to lighter blue gradient we see in the actual mushroom. Her skin also matches the almost white stem. This was a detail I really fought to keep, but it was making her stand out too much from the other girls. So what I ended up doing was making her skin a nice brown and using that almost white color for her hair. I always enjoy the nice contrast it provides, so I'm not too upset about it. In the original, it was a piece of cake to indicate how small she is by simply having a giant hand reach for her. This time, since it's not a full illustration, I will simply be giving her a nice petite build and making her shorter than the others. In the original, everything goes together very harmoniously until you get to her hair and eyes, which are both a bright yellow. I remember going with that color to add some spice and contrast. This helped draw your eyes in towards the actual character's face. The main reason it had to specifically be yellow though is because the droplets on the mushroom looked yellow in my reference that I was using. Upon further inspection, it seems that was only a trick of the light and not really a true feature of the mushroom. I even added some of those droplets as a pattern on her dress back then. For a once-off thing, it's not too bad, but it doesn't work that well as a character design. It made it look very messy. Rather than precisely repeat those, this time I decided to give her an assortment of beaded jewelry. I made each bead a different color based on the different blues in her design. Another way I incorporated the tiny droplets was to create a galaxy effect on her clothes. I've been really loving drawing characters with a little bit of a galaxy or star theme lately. The blues and purples mix so wonderfully for the base, and the way I plop in the stars are just so satisfying. But our first character is done. She looks quite adorable, much more put together and maybe even a little more level-headed than the original. The next character we're dealing with is based on the dead man's finger. This fungi grows as club-like shapes and can be fused together into clumps. They often look like hands or feet, which is how it got its name. The appearance and texture often resembles that of burned wood. It is most commonly a black or brown color, but can sometimes appear more blue or green. It usually appears in forests and woodland areas, growing from rotting or injured trees. Given these growing conditions, I knew I needed to make her look pretty intense and very clearly non-human. The original artwork for this piece is simple, but I'd say quite impactful. The character reaches out to the viewer like a friend. She's supposed to seem harmless until you see the darkest side that she's hiding. Her entire arm has morphed into the dead man's finger clumps. Whether it serves as a parasite or is her true form, I don't know. But either way, this design got completely scrapped except for her purple eyes. This new design I wanted to read as something completely inhuman. While that is the case for all of today's designs, I wanted her to stand out in that aspect. Her skin matches the appearance of the mushroom itself. Her base tone is a grey, and the tips of her fingers and ears are a peachy color. Since I decided to drop the innocent look, I went for something a little more edgy, not just to change things up, but also because it would suit this type of unnatural skin tone. The centerpiece of this outfit is based on an image I found online of a harness with hanging chains in the shape of a ribcage. It looked really cool, so I designed my own version. I repeated the draping chain patterns throughout the design to make her look just a tiny bit more harmonious. Each of the characters in this video have their own version of the chains. The first is wearing beads, and the next one you'll see is wearing some nice large pearls. This was to help them feel like they are more part of the same group, though I do admit they all still end up looking very different from each other. Regardless, this character turned out quite cool. I really love the harness idea, so don't be surprised if I end up using it again in the future. The final character we're taking a look at is based on an inky cap. It is called that for its quite obvious inky appearance. The cap is a grey-brown bell shape before it eventually flattens and disintegrates. Even though the fungi is edible, it is only poisonous when consumed alongside alcohol. Clumps of this fungi are known to grow after rain on grassy fields. The original design for this character was quite simple. She was just inspired by the flapper-style dresses of the 1920s. I turned the tassels these dresses are known for into inky strings. I remember that being what drew me to the idea. Other than that, this girl was smoking and looking off into the distance with a dead look in her eye. I didn't like this piece back then, and I still find it quite lacking, especially when it comes to how I drew her face. I decided to keep the new design closely tied to the original in a way. It is still very much flapper inspired. I just took some different references and simplified things very much. I mainly referenced an image of a dress with a nice tight bodice and fabric draping down. These dresses are highly detailed, but I wanted to strip a ton of that detail away so that the design wouldn't end up feeling too cluttered compared to the others. At least I still made an ode to all the tassels by adding in a select few to spruce up her outfit. There are only 4 visible from this angle. I also added a tiny bit of lace to the front of her bodice just to add that little bit of detail and break down that wide open space of color that would be there in the end. This time around I didn't give our girl something to smoke, but I was considering giving her something to drink. This was due to the mushroom she's based on not reacting well with alcohol, so I decided against it for that same reason. I didn't imagine she'd be a fan of any indulgences of the sort. At least I still included a prop for her. Now she's carrying a fancy umbrella instead. The shape does well to make a nod at her mushroom inspiration, but also references the fact that this mushroom grows after it has rained. She turned out much better than her previous version. She looks friendly, but also like she's hiding her truly dangerous nature. But that is all for today, crew. These girls were an absolute treat to redesign. Drawing them all on one canvas was challenging, but it allowed me to quickly jump between them and make changes so that they could feel more cohesive. Usually I make use of a repeating color, so it was a breath of fresh air to mash them all together with a similar motif, like the chains and beads. If you're a lover of art and characters, be sure to like and subscribe so that you don't miss the next ones. Bye bye!